So about 2 years ago, I wrote a post for Psychology Today called Aligning the Machinery of Your Mind. And I want to revisit it because it relates to my last couple of posts, but even more so, it relates to a lot of stuff I've been listening to, a lot of stuff that I've been reading. So I think I mentioned in the last video, and definitely in my last post, that I've been reading Incognito by Dr. Eagleman, neuroscientist, right? So everybody, prior to me reading it, everybody was talking about how it focuses on biology. It's like 90% biology, how the brain works, evolutionary theory, so on and so forth. And even one of my colleagues who read it, I recommended it. She picked it up and read it and reads quicker than I do and already finished it. And that was her complaint. It's like all biology and there's nothing, there's not a lot of psychology. She didn't say that exactly, but basically that it relies too heavily on biology. And, I've been reading it and last night I read a part and all of this also relates to evolutionary theory, period, as well as I've always believed, and I don't know the psychology is always believed, but I can probably go back in my writing. I've been writing for them for 10 years. I don't know if it's been 10 years, but probably pretty close to that. And I said, I think we're 90% unconscious. Like we're behaving unconsciously 90% of the time. So I guess I don't take such umbrage with the fact that they're saying basically the same thing. But that's not my point. Like, I don't think people are into this. I'm super excited about it. Like, it's all I've been talking about to clients, to students. It's pretty much like taken over my life right now. But I don't think most other people care. They're like, whatever, I'm going to eat my meal and watch my show, and I don't give a shit about what you're talking about, Barry. And that's cool. Like, maybe it's not as exciting to everyone else. But the idea, is, and I was listening to a podcast yesterday and today because it's a really long podcast. And like me, the host rambles a great deal. And I hate it because I probably hate that about myself. But the person he was interviewing is supremely intellectual. And I had to keep rewinding and I wasn't even getting some of the concepts. But a lot of it, again, was like, what are our brains set up for? Like, is math inherent in us, for example? And I don't remember the answer. But the point that I'm trying to make is that in Incognito, in the podcast that I listened to that kind of inspired me 2 years ago to write Aligning the Machinery of Your Mind, all says, is there free will or isn't there free will? And Incognito, I think he comes to the conclusion it doesn't matter. And that's the same conclusion I've come to. Like, to me, I've argued 5 years ago, probably, maybe longer, in a theories of personality class, I argued with a student about whether we had free will or not. Not in the class, like after class, we were standing outside and just talking. And I think we both came to the conclusion, I know I came to the conclusion, it depends on where you draw the line. Like, where is the line for free will? And to me, who cares? Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you draw the line. It doesn't matter if you have free will or not. Because for the way we understand free will, of course we do. And in that podcast, I think it's called Two Sides of the Same Coin. I wanted to bring it up. I have my computer right here. I think it's called Two Sides of the Same Coin or something like that. But let me scroll to the references because I feel weird. Life is a coin with one side. Totally butchered that. It's from This American Life. It was in a much longer episode. Life is a coin with one side. And the argument is there's no free will. But what Eagleman says in the last chapter I read is there is a way to like practice your frontal lobe and to gain more self-control. People say to me all the time, oh, you have so much self-control. I don't know that I do. Like when I really like something, I go way too far with it. I eat it all the time, I eat it more than I should, or whatever, okay? But I do at times pull that back in, and I have self-control in that way. So how do you get self-control? Well, what Eagleman is suggesting, and what I was kind of suggesting, I hope, in that article or that post, is through practice. Like, the more we practice, it doesn't matter if you have free will or not. If you make a decision that this is how I want to behave, this is who I want to be, I want to be this kind of person, the person that exercises multiple times a week, then you make that decision, and then you practice doing that. You practice not allowing your mind to talk you out of it, okay? Create excuses and so forth. This is how I approach therapy. That's why I talk about it so much. I love mindfulness, and mindfulness to me is that small percentage of free will we have. You know, I had part of the reason I brought this up, but I lost it. There was a Rollo May quote about, you know, between stimulus and response, there's a gap, and in that gap we can decide which way to throw our weight, basically, is what he says. Like, where do we want to put our effort? So a lot of self-control or free will is slowing down. Like, I think, as an estimate, personally, I think we're maybe 10% free will. I don't even know if that much, honestly. I would say that's maybe the average. I think people with a lot of self-awareness and a decent amount of practicing self-control have more free will, and a lot of people are sleepwalking through their lives, quite frankly. So the idea is, if we practice self-control, if we keep practicing it, you're going to fail. I'm not 100% at anything I do. I'm not even close. Like, I try not to curse at people driving. Forget it. Okay, I was screaming at some guy today, like in my car with I had the windows down. He had his windows up. He didn't seem to care, honestly. Like, he cut me off and he didn't seem to care that I was unhappy about it. But my point is, I'm not doing anything perfectly. No one is doing anything perfectly. But if you slow down, if you use mindfulness, if you make a decision about who you want to be, and if you just keep practicing that. Sometimes I practice it in my head. Like, I want to be a calmer, more compassionate person. And I've been struggling with it for 20 years probably. Okay, and I just keep trying. And lately I've been visualizing it because I read about that somewhere. All right, I rambled way too long. I know I've talked about this before. Maybe just read Aligning the Machinery of Your Mind. I don't think, it's not exactly what I talked about today, but it comes down to just that gap and exercising what little free will we might have. All right. Otherwise, we're being controlled by biology and our conditioning, and that's it. Thanks.